Have you ever dreamed of making something that's both a work of art and a battlefield for kings and queens? Well, grab your tools, because today we're building a chessboard from scratch. Welcome in. My name is Connor. Are you ready to make something awesome or what? Shopfix. It's for the love of woodworking. Let's kick things off with two gorgeous pieces of wood, maple for the light squares and this beautiful purple heart for the dark ones. A little love with a joiner, planer, and table saw, and we've turned these rough boards into perfect strips. Precision is the name of the game here. If your strips are uneven, your chessboard will look like it had one too many coffees. Slow and steady wins this race. This won't be like any other chessboard though. I'll be adding a decorative paddock inlay to really spice things up. Literally, it looks like I have cayenne pepper all over my workshop from the paddock lumber. Well, now that our wood is looking sharp, it's time to lay our strips side by side like puzzle pieces. This is where your chessboard starts to show its personality. You'll need 4 long strips of both contrasting colors to make it all work. We'll then spread a thin even layer of glue along those edges and clamp everything up nice and tight. If you'd like to send these pieces through a 12-inch planer after glue up, make sure to skip glue on one of the middle pieces. If you have a drum sander or a wider planer, you can get away with gluing them all at once. YouTube is yet to make me a millionaire, so I'm gonna go ahead and use my 12-inch DeWalt planer still. The planer makes easy work of this job and gets the surface milled flat for the next step. I mean, wow, it's already looking really beautiful. Well, back to the glue up station, it's time to join these two halves together. This simple process leaves you with a clean and polished foundation to create an amazing chessboard from. It's like preparing a great batter to cook with, and this specific recipe leaves you with an absolutely gorgeous stripe pattern. Alright, now for the fun part. You'll want to take that glued up panel, rotate it 90 degrees, and make sure to square one end. Once one end is square, put that against your fence and you can begin slicing across the grain to create 8 strips. And those 8 strips, when alternated on their light and dark squares, will create the 64-piece chessboard. It's like a puzzle, except you already know the solution, and it's so satisfying. Well, this is basically where it all starts coming together. At this stage, we need to glue these alternating strips with our decorative paddock inlays in between. I opted to split this glue up in half just as I did the first glue up. There's a lot of alignment to do at this step, and the glue only has so much working time, so I would definitely opt for this route. Clamping some flat wood on top as cauls will ensure your boards remain flat and level. With one half of this awesome chessboard complete, it'll be time to methodically glue the next half together. I used the same method and made sure to align the checkered pattern as I added each strip. After that dries, I can then add on the other panel for the final glue up. At this point, you can take a step back and admire your handiwork. You've just completed the hardest, most crucial steps of this chessboard build. After trimming off the excess paddock wood with a Japanese flush cut saw, we'll sand the bottom completely flat. You'll want to work from 40 grit to about 120 grit for this bottom side. It'll end up being covered with a flat MDF panel. I cut this 3/4 MDF to be just a little bit bigger than the chessboard. We'll be gluing the chessboard to this flat MDF panel to ensure that the chessboard stays flat, durable, and ready to withstand epic games of chess for generations to come. Using a series of cauls, I made sure to apply equal pressure to the whole chessboard. I then trimmed the excess MDF with a large Japanese pole saw because I didn't want to risk removing any of the border. Once that was cleaned up, it was time to get the top surface all flat. This is also a good moment to fix any imperfections between your glue joints with wood putty. I worked my way from 40 grit all the way up to 2000 grit, so the chessboard has a nice sheen level once finished. But wait, we're not done yet. Let's give this chessboard some extra style with a decorative border. It's like putting a frame on a masterpiece. It's a total game changer. I simply cut a groove into these paddock strips to make room for the total thickness of the chessboard, then gave them a nice round over before cutting 45-degree miters on the corners. These will enable the border to be glued on like a picture frame and leave a seamless look for the chessboard. After precisely marking the length, I headed back over to the miter saw to get the final dimensions locked in. I repeated that process for all 4 border pieces, and then it was time to glue them all up. I applied a thin, even layer of glue along the grooves in the miter corners, and used my finger to spread the glue all the way to the edges. This helps create a strong bond and minimizes glue squeeze out, which we want to minimize at this step. Using a band clamp will ensure that the miter corners stay snug and tight while the glue dries. To sand the border to perfection, I recommend applying painter's tape to the chessboard to protect it from any sanding marks as you carefully shape the border by hand. Now here's a little trick for added durability. Secure the border with a few finishing nails. This step is optional, but it adds that extra layer of security, especially with a board that will get heavy use. Alright, time to make this board silky smooth with a 2000 grit or higher sandpaper. Once you're all done, blow off the dust, maybe clean with mineral spirits to get ready for finish. For the finish, I'm using Odie's hard wax oil. This stuff is like magic. It brings out the wood grain and protects the surface at the same time. Rub it in, let it soak, and then buff it out to a gorgeous shine. It's that easy. And this hard wax not only prevents scratches, but will also protect the surface from any moisture. Last but not least, let's add on some rubber feet to the bottom of this handcrafted chessboard to make sure the board doesn't slide around while playing. And there you have it, a gorgeous chessboard that's ready for its first epic battle. Whether you're playing chess or just showing it off, this board is something you can be proud of. I know my dad certainly is, ever since I gifted it to him. Well, thanks for hanging out with me on this build. If you're feeling inspired, hit that like button, subscribe, and let me know what you're building next. Happy woodworking, my friends.